Hi everyone, my name is Eric Wingrawski, and I'm here to present Optimal Radiometric Calibration for Camera Display Communication. So, the goal of this project is to have an ordinary image like this that we can all see, we can read the text, doesn't look weird to us. But if I take out my phone with camera on it, I can point it there, and I can recover an underlying message. Now, how does this happen? Okay. For our case, we use a very simple approach of embedding messages. We make small intensity changes to images. We then display sequentially these images on electronic displays and projectors, and then these get imaged by cameras. And then the cameras just find the differences in the images and find the message. That would be great, but it doesn't really work that well. The reason it doesn't work that well is because there's a ton of things that are adding noise to this problem. First of all, when we have something coming off of an electronic display, it's creating a light field. And as this light field projects through free space, there's a radiometric response. So, to put it simply, me standing here, there's no one-to-one mapping between the pixels on the screen and the pixels that my camera are going to receive. On top of that, each display has its own spectral emittance function, and each camera has its own spectral sensitivity function. So what we try and do is jointly estimate all of these different noise contributing factors into one camera display transfer function. And we're trying to estimate the CDTF so we can find the inverse of it. Now, you might just say, well, why don't we just use very high intensity images? If we use very high intensity, there we go. Yeah, if we use very high intensity images, it's really ugly. See, the image on the left has a high intensity message embedded in it, and there's a lot of visual obtrusion. On the other hand, the error is great. We get very little errors when we're trying to recover a message like this. The image on the left, however, does have a message embedded in it. It's a very low intensity message, but the signal to noise ratio is very low, so errors are common. And we correct for this with radiometric calibration. Now, I'm going to present two methods here. The first method is we put known intensity values in the corners of the screen, and these are calibration patches. Okay? So what we're doing is we're modeling how these known values move through this camera display transfer function, and then we're seeing how they end up after these values have been camera captured. And once we do that, we can fit a fourth order polynomial, and we can say, okay, we know this is how these pixels are moving, and this is how this distortion works. We apply the inverse, and we remove the noise. The only problem is we have to put these ugly patches in the corner of the screen, which is also visually obtrusive. Now, another approach, a secondary calibration approach, uses histogram equalization. We can take the histogram of an image, equalize it before it's displayed, and then take that same image after it's been displayed, create a light field, there's a radiometric response, my camera captures it, and then histogram equalize it again. And what you see is that there's a much better intensity mapping when we do that. So our results are actually quite nice when this happens. So to evaluate this, we used 9 different combinations of cameras and displays, all commercially available. We saw that this radiometric calibration particularly helps when we're using low intensity messages and when the messages are viewed at an oblique angle, like this. And just to review everything I've talked about before, here we're proposing 2 calibration algorithms. One of them has patches in the corners, and the other one, the image itself is the calibration patch with this histogram equalization. These are online algorithms, so no prior information has to be known about the camera or the display or the pose. We don't need to use very special high-speed displays for this to remain invisible. And this doesn't just need to be applied to our messaging scheme where we're doing a block of intensity. We can apply this to rolling shutter methods or anything else really.